So here we go. I told you, small town. She's a dynamo. She currently chairs the budget committee of the Republican Study Committee and is doing an awesome job. My friend from the great state of Texas, please welcome Representative Beth Van Duyne. Hooray.
Thank you. Small town. I was city council for 6 years, and I was mayor of for 6 years for a city called Irving, Texas. And
small.
Happens to be 92nd largest city in the country, 250,000 people. But it did feel like a small town because you get to know the people, you get to know the businesses, you get to know the small business owners, you get to know the teachers. It's a phenomenal experience before you come to council, but it also teaches you the importance of staying within a budget. I think I'm one of only a handful of people in Congress who've actually passed 12 balanced budgets. And it wasn't because we didn't have people who wanted to spend more money. It wasn't because I didn't have staff who could tell me more projects that we had to spend on. It was actually the law. I think we shouldn't do that here. We've got to find ways of being able to get our government spending under control. And I want to say, citing his success in working to cut hundreds of thousands of jobs from the federal government, then President Bill Clinton famously stated, "We have worked to give the American people a smaller, less bureaucratic government in Washington. And we have to give the American people one that lives within its means." The era of big government is over. Man, how many years have gone by between that statement and where we are now, and what we've seen is more government and more bloat. Just a few years later, another Democrat president noted, "We cannot sustain a system that bleeds billions of taxpayer dollars on programs that have outlived their usefulness or exist solely because of the power of a politician, lobbyist, or interest group. We simply cannot afford it." And I agree with then President Obama that to protect the American taxpayer, our ability to grow as a nation, and for our families to be able to provide and afford the lives that they want to live, free from government intrusion, that we must once again rid ourselves of unnecessary special interests and bloated programs that no longer serve our nation. And the American people overwhelmingly agree. Just yesterday, polling numbers were released showing over 70% of Americans agree with the work of the Department of Government Efficiency, and by extension the DOGE caucus, to make significant cuts in the size, scope, and power of the federal government. Every day, new programs of insane spending are being exposed. The waste, corruption, and outright money laundering that has occurred is so grotesque and very likely criminal in some instances that it is our moral obligation to wipe these programs from the books. We talk about a golden age because we are living in a moment where the resolve of the executive branch matches the will of the American people in such a way of massive reform can and must be brought about to save the future of generations to come. This is our moment to achieve cathartic reforms, but we need to also put in place controls so that when this moment passes, that there are protections to prevent this kind of debt and calamity from ever occurring again. And that's why I have reintroduced the Government Offices Realignment and Closure Act, GORAC, to establish a process to cut wasteful spending, slash the bureaucracy, and ensure our national debt never again reaches heights to threaten the stability of our country. This bill will require a third-party audit to expose redundant and inefficient, wasteful, or outdated functions within federal executive agencies. Every 10 years, the auditor's findings will be reported to Congress, and as outlined in the bill, recommendations will be considered under fast-tracking procedures on the floor, thereby establishing a process for Congress to directly confront government bloat, corruption, and cowardice. Similarly, I've also introduced the Reducing Expensive Departments and Unnecessary Civil Employees Act, REDUCE for short, that codifies President Trump's executive action to shrink the bloated bureaucracy. The REDUCE Act will force agencies to eliminate duplicative positions and reform hiring practices to rein in the administrative state. With exceptions for immigration, law enforcement, and public safety, the REDUCE Act requires agencies to remove duplicative positions and hire no more than one employee for every 4 employees who depart the federal workforce. These programs and other efforts that have been mentioned here today are outright necessities to ensure the federal government stops stealing the vitality, the innovation, and the economic strength of our nation. Just like then Presidents Clinton and Obama recognized that the federal government has become too large and too bloated for our nation to bear, we have this incredible moment to make significant and long-lasting changes. The American people are with us on this. They have entrusted us with this critical task, and it is our responsibility to deliver in the most important endeavor. And if not now, then when? And thank you very much, Aaron.
Beth Van Duyne, I told you she was good. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the